But if you wanna find me, please just send me location. Send me location.
You know, they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. Normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I am gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show, live on YouTube, obviously podcast form on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc. Hit that like button, share the show, subscribe. It's Matt, the hipster hunter. Hipsters here. Haters beware. Let's go. God damn, it is fight week here, man. It has been a 2-year absence of the king, Conor McGregor. And obviously we have a ton of boxing fights to get to talk about, discuss. A total of 5 fight cards that I'm going to break down, dissect. Just a litany of action that we need to get to and just discuss, debate. Call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. If you are international, email me mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get that free international call-in link. Otherwise, what else? Other housekeeping news? No, just hit the like button of the show, all that stuff. Patreon.com/mixedcombatradio helps support the channel in any financial way. Of course, you can do any free stuff like liking the show, subscribing, sharing the show, that stuff. But let's get into the fights because there are so many fights to talk about. Like I said, from UFC 229, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor. The return of Conor McGregor to MMA after a 2-year hiatus, and obviously the Floyd Mayweather Divergent fight, whatever, showcase, circus, whatever that was. Obviously, World Boxing Super Series, Matchroom USA on DAZN. The return of Sirkat Rungvisai, potentially one of the best pound-for-pound boxers in the world, on a MMA card, nonetheless, on one championship. I believe on Saturday. I forget the exact time for it, though. You know, obviously being in Asia, in a different time zone, but obviously this weekend as well. Just so much to get into, like I said. So let's get right into it. And for a first time in MCR history, we will not break down this show per sport. So it won't be boxing and then MMA in 2 halves. It will be all the fights from what I perceive to be the best and biggest fights to the least biggest and best fights in that order. So we're going to start off with UFC 229, Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov for the UFC lightweight title, and then work our way down through the weekend. And then after that, get to all the news of the day, and that's what will be predominantly boxing and then MMA for those that want to have that little pace to it. Again, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. I definitely want to hear some opinions and takes about all these fights because there are so many to get to. And let's get right into it because, like I said, it is, goddamn, so much to get into. UFC 229, like I said, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor, potentially the biggest fight in UFC history. And I'll be honest, this has been a fight that I've had some difficulty in coming to a pick. I've went through every expert I know in the field. I've watched everyone their fights multiple times leading into this event, and it's been one that I can just see both guys winning. I can really see a path to victory for either guy, and the margin of error is so tiny for either man. So let's get into it, because that is really the fight of the weekend. Even though there's a lot of boxing this weekend, and I am predominantly a boxing head, Nurmagomedov versus McGregor is clearly the biggest and best fight of the weekend. And it's one that I really don't see being a back-and-forth affair, to be quite honest. I see whoever wins this bout being dominant in how they win it. And it would be rather quick as well. I don't see this fight lasting more than 3 rounds at tops. Even though there is the narrative out there that obviously Khabib Nurmagomedov has the better cardio tank. He can last 5 rounds a little bit better, put on a better pace, more consistent output than Conor McGregor 4 or 5 rounds. That is obvious. However, this fight is not lasting towards 5 rounds. If it does, it might end up being a classic, which I think we just aren't expecting, to be quite honest. Even though this is a great matchup, these are 2 great fighters. You have potentially the best striker in MMA history in Conor McGregor and the best grappler in MMA history in Khabib Nurmagomedov going against each other. However, I just see one of their wills giving out. I see, like I said at the very top, there is a very small, narrow window of error for either guy here. For Nurmagomedov, I think it's pretty obvious. He has atrocious striking. His entries to his grappling are not the greatest. I've seen better. I've seen worse. But for a guy that is obviously so skilled once he is on top of you, once he has a hold of you, to get to that point, he is a little bit faulty. He doesn't have clear setups to his takedowns. His real only hope is that you overextend yourself, get a little bit too close to where he can tie you up, work a single leg, and start chaining takedowns. Or if you are running, backwards like Edson Barboza, that momentum he will use against you to push up against the cage, and just the forward momentum of himself, initiate that grappling exchange. However, at range, and when he decides to be at range, because, for example, like the Michael Johnson fight in that first 2.5 minutes of that first round, he was on the back foot. He was allowing Michael Johnson to have the range that he needed to work his game, and he was getting caught with shots. And then he had the takedown in about 2.5 minutes into that first round, and then the fight was, pretty much over at that point. He beat him up for the next 2.5 rounds after that. Big Al saying McGregor's cardio on Khabib's level, that's the key factor. I do not think that's the key factor. That is not. Even though that is a factor, I just don't think it's the key one. I think Conor McGregor has a 30-second to about 2.5 minute, 3-minute window from what I've seen in Khabib's fights when Khabib initiates that first takedown. And if Conor, in that 30-second to 2.5 minute, 3-minute window, can land that left hand, it's game over. I truly think that. If Khabib makes one mistake on that entrance, he will get caught. I think he'll get hurt. And then Conor is one of the best finishers in MMA history. He clearly is that. If he has you hurt, his follow-ups all land. He'll throw in a 4 or 5 punch combination and every single punch lands. So that to me is the key factor. And then vice versa for Conor McGregor, if he misses that left hand. Let's say he does. He misses it, overextends himself slightly. Khabib will slip it, initiate a takedown, and then I think it's game over. I truly do. And then again, this fight at most lasts 3 rounds, and I truly think that's only due to the durability of either guy, potentially. However, I think that, even though I'm a Conor McGregor fan, I just don't see him winning this. Sorry, McGregor fans out there. I think his margin for error is smaller. I think Khabib, we've seen him get hurt. We've seen him survive. And almost like Tyron Woodley, work the counter wrestling, counter striking game. Be comfortable with basically his back against the fence, even though Conor McGregor wants his opponent there in that position behind the double black line. Khabib, actually like Woodley, like RDA at times, he's comfortable there. He's okay in that position. He's inviting you to overextend yourself and then counter your offensive striking with his grappling. And he does that fairly well. And again, the second Khabib has a hold of you, you are going down. You're taking a ride. And even though Khabib had trouble, let's say, with guys like Pat Healy, Gleason Tebow, in terms of really, starting up his wrestling game, took him a while to get going. And even though those fights were some years ago, those guys are much better grapplers than Conor McGregor. That's just clear as day. If Conor is able to keep this fight at range, if Khabib decides that he is going to have a slow start, then Conor has that, window of working that 30-second and 2-minute window. It extends a little bit, and then potentially he could land that left hand, get some shots going, work the jab. And Conor is a notorious fast starter, even against fights like Chad Mendes, for example. Probably the best wrestler he faced, and a guy that I'm going to compare to Khabib in a second. Conor's first 2 strikes in that entire fight was him running at Chad Mendes, throwing a spinning back kick, and then after that, directly after that, going into a flying knee, and then Chad Mendes took him down. However, to use that fight as a more a broader comparison for the Khabib fight, and to sort of give hope for maybe the Conor McGregor fans out there, Chad Mendes is a much better striker than, let's say, Khabib, right? I feel like that's obvious. His boxing and just power alone is just levels above Khabib Nurmagomedov. So he was able to really set up his grappling exchanges, his double leg takedowns off of that right hand and left hook. Khabib doesn't have that. And again, when going back to the setups, that will be the key. There are 2 key factors in this fight. Can Khabib slip that left hand and make Conor McGregor overextend himself, and thus opening himself up to that takedown? Or the other key factor is, can Conor McGregor catch Khabib on his entrance, because Khabib has awful setups. Khabib has a non-existent jab, non-existent boxing. And again, his defensive ability, striking, is just non-existent. This is a fight where either Conor McGregor is going to knock him out rather early, a la Eddie Alvarez, a la Jose Aldo, or it's going to be a fight where Khabib gets Conor down after maybe a few shots he eats up top, and then within a round and a half, 2 rounds, Conor McGregor's going to take a lot of punishment, make a mistake on the ground, and he's going to get choked out or submitted. It's one of those 2 options. And I'm usually speaking in MMA, I go towards the grappler, that wrestling base, and especially since Khabib, in my opinion, he has shown to be durable. Even though he has shown that he can get caught in a way against like Michael Johnson, for example, he never went down in that fight, and he was able to survive it, rally, and also win that round rather dominantly. Big Al saying Conor KO versus Khabib wrestling masterclass, and it is rather dominant either way, Big Al. If this does end up to be a competitive back and forth affair where Conor's able to get up consistently and land shots, I'll be surprised. I really will be. And I'm not going to discredit that possibility, but I just don't see it happening. I see one of these guys' wills taking over, and I think it will be Nurmagomedov's will that will take over in this fight. Conor McGregor coming back from a 2-year layoff, even though he did fight Floyd Mayweather in the boxing ring, I think does hurt him here. I think him really not having nearly the amount of experience in the grappling department as Khabib Nurmagomedov. It's just, and then vice versa. Obviously, Khabib doesn't have nearly the amount of experience in terms of the striking department as Conor McGregor. These are respectively the best grappler and striker in MMA history, arguably, respectively, like I said. So if you're picking one to KO the other or one to out-wrestle the other, I'm not going to scoff at that. In fact, I was rather close to picking Conor McGregor by KO. I can see it. It's very vivid in my mind about how it can happen. But same with Khabib. Whatever it's going to be entertaining and fun either way, like Big Al says in the chat. Cannot wait to see it. It's been a fight that we've been waiting for some time. Speaking of been waiting for some time, Tony Ferguson in the co-main event coming back after a 5-6 month layoff after tearing his ACL. An extremely quick recovery. Shout out to him. He definitely is coming in with a chip on his shoulder. If you haven't seen any of his interviews, at the fight week in Vegas. He's basically been saying the UFC took his belt, took a few zeros off his paycheck, and he's fucking pissed off. And standing across from him is Anthony poor Pettis, man. Goddamn. To Anthony Pettis' credit, in that first round, he does have a huge chance to win. Similar to the Khabib Conor McGregor fight, obviously, in some capacity, in some parallels. Pettis is a fantastic one-round fighter. Ferguson is awful in that first round. Horrendous. So could I see Pettis catching Ferguson up top with a wild kick, a wild counter shot, and following up and finishing Ferguson in the first round? Absolutely. However, I do not see that actually happening on Saturday. I think Tony Ferguson is too much of an overall threat for Anthony Pettis. Remembering what Dustin Poirier was able to do to Anthony Pettis in the grappling department and just overall bully him on the feet, Tony Ferguson's going to have his way with Pettis. Pettis is going to be trying to counter everything Ferguson does. Ferguson is going to be elusive on his own flow and mixing up his striking and grappling exchanges rather well and quickly. And plus, his clinch game is no joke. And I think once he gets Pettis in the clinch against the fence, it's going to be rather bloody and ugly for Anthony Pettis, who has done just awful work against the fence. That's just not where he's supposed to be. He has zero ability there, and Ferguson has a very good Muay Thai clinch up against the fence, pummeling elbows and knees into you. He should win this one, within 2.5 rounds, probably. Maybe TKO, maybe submission, but he's getting Anthony Pettis out there, in my opinion. There's no way this fight lasts all 3 rounds, but it should be a rather fun fight as long as it lasts, and probably the more competitive version of the main event. The next fight on the card, Ovince St. Preux versus Dominic Reyes. Fun light heavyweight fight, which I can say we do not hear that often. OSP, though, is probably the guy I'm going to go with. Even though Dominic Reyes is a fun prospect, I think OSP is such an athletic freak that he's going to land that, sweeping roundhouse kick or get a Von Flue choke out of nowhere like he's done before and do some wild shit against Dominic Reyes. I just see that happening. I don't see Dominic Reyes really having anything other than maybe activity in terms of an advantage against OSP. I just don't see it there. Derek Lewis versus Alexander Volkov. A fight that I'm upset to see because I know Derek Lewis has a hard shot here. Like I don't see him winning this unless it's a Hail Mary right hand knockout against Alexander Volkov, who is the more fundamental, methodical striker. He uses a jab, and I believe he's going to keep this fight at range and fight his sort of outside kickboxing-esque style that is highly reminiscent of Alexander Gustafsson. However, like I said, Derek Lewis definitely has that puncher's chance, but he's been dealing with back injuries throughout his career. He's just looked flat regardless of wins or losses in his last few fights. I don't see him winning this. He's a fighter that I cannot trust in right now in terms of picking him. The pay-per-view opener, Michelle Waterson versus Felice Herring. A really competitive, fun matchup at women's strawweight. I'm picking Felice Herring slightly, I think, just because she's the bigger, more, what's the term? Not in her prime. I don't think either fighter's in their prime, but she's closer to her prime than Michelle Waterson. Plus, I think the striking advantage that might be there from Michelle Waterson slightly negated by just the fundamental Dutch style of Felice Herring, and obviously the size advantage of Felice Herring. Add that to the grappling department. I think Felice Herring is more position-oriented, while Michelle Waterson is more submission-oriented. So while Michelle Waterson might go for a nice rear naked choke or armbar, she's going to give up position every time to do that. I don't think she's going to land a submission on Felice Herring. I don't see it. I see a 29-28 scorecard, maybe a split decision towards Felice Herring, and a fun pay-per-view opener. The main event of the FS1 portion of the prelim, Sergio Pettis versus Huzia Formiga. Definitely a fun style matchup. Formiga, one of the better grapplers in the men's flyweight division, and plus an amazing rear naked choke artist. So if he gets the back of Sergio Pettis, it could be over. However, I think Sergio Pettis has really put his game together. I think his grappling and wrestling flaws have been sort of shorn up a bit with time. And plus, he is just a good striker, just like his brother. So I think he's going to come in here and be able to negate the wrestling of Formiga, which isn't that great, and sort of piece him up on the feet. The rest of their fight card, I'm not going to talk about really that much in breakdown. Vicente Luque versus Jalen Turner. Aspen Ladd versus Tonio Evinger. That's a fun fight. Definitely watch that one. Scott Holtzman versus Alan Patrick. Lena Landsberg versus Yana Kudinskaya. Two fighters that have recently lost to Chris Cyborg, so that's going to be interesting. Gray Maynard versus Nick Lentz. This could potentially be the retirement fight of Gray Maynard, so look out for that. Longtime veteran to the game. And Ryan LaFair versus Tony Martin opening it up. Fun fights throughout. Good card. Cannot wait to sit down and watch it with my man Santiago, who's in the queue. We're going to move on to the boxing fights. Like I said, we're going to talk about all of the fight cards this weekend and then all the news. Moving over to the World Boxing Super Series card on DAZN, because let's be honest, even though the Matchroom USA card might get more media attention, we all know the best boxing card this weekend is the triple header by World Boxing Super Series. Get fucking hype. Naoya Inoue versus Juan Carlos Payano. Kiryl Relikh versus Edward Chanovsky. And Ken Shiro versus Milan Melendo. God damn. Thank you, boxing gods. Whenever Ken Shiro and Inoue are on the same card together, you just know you're going to see good boxing. Those are two potentially, along with maybe Kozai Tanaka, of course, respect to the great Tanaka right now. Those three are probably the best Japanese boxers in the world. It might be some of the best boxers in the world to boot. And all of them under 16 fights, 17 fights. Some of them multi-divisional champions in that time. I mean, you were talking about potentially 3 Hall of Famers all in the same era, generation, all like fighting together as buddies. It's weird. Like it directly analogs maybe like what's happening in Ukraine with like Lomachenko, Usyk, Alexander Vazhik. And obviously Team Great Britain. There's a huge sort of influx of talent from their amateur, generation or crop. There's a lot of great fighters right now. Just saying, in terms of highly active early on in their career, facing top competition, with amazing amateur pedigree, and also mega schools of training, like the Lomachenko school in Ukraine, obviously the Great Britain team, Japan. You have gigantic teams of world-class boxers. Just saying, fantastic time to be a fan of boxing. I just want to always reiterate that. Moving on to the fights. Inoue versus Payano. God, I don't see how this fight is boring. This might be the best fight of the weekend, other than being, Ken Shiro versus Milan Melendo, which we're going to get to as well. But I think Inoue versus Payano is probably going to catch that award for fight of the weekend. Both guys do phenomenal mid-range work. Obviously, Inoue has that insane knockout power in the low weight classes. Payano, not so much, but the guy is a swarmer. He is a brawler. He's a guy that I've seen up close train with guys like Guillermo Rigondeaux. He is a worker. He makes guys work 100%. He's definitely a guy that you cannot count out. A guy that's only lost to Rashid Warren, who I highly respect. And also he has beat Rashid Warren. Obviously, just an extreme veteran in the game that Inoue is going to have. I'm not going to say trouble with, but he's going to have to figure things out on the fly. He's going to have to deal with the pressure of Payano. He's going to have to adapt maybe in the first few rounds. But Inoue is just too accurate. His combinations are too quick. Defensively, there are some holes to his game. If you watch him for any period of time, you know that he doesn't really have pivots in his footwork. A la like Canelo or Lomachenko. He doesn't really pivot and try to reestablish range at a different angle. He's predominantly a guy that moves straight and backwards. He slips shots pretty well off the center line, but it's more like an Earl Spence or Mike Garcia head movement, or even Triple G, where it's decent head movement, don't get me wrong, but it's not it's not the full defensive arsenal you could have to your use. He does have limits there. To where a guy like Payano, I think, because of his pressure and combination work, Inoue is going to be at times moving straight backwards and eating shots. He will. But I think Inoue is just too, durable. We've never seen him hurt with any of his opponents, and he's fought some good opponents. And on top of that, I think he's just the better boxer than Payano. So even though Payano's pressure is going to, catch Inoue at times, Inoue's just methodical work, his fundamental work, plus with his athleticism, power, it's going to be too much of a combination for Payano. And Payano's probably going to get out of there via TKO. Not a clean knockout, but I think Inoue's going to finish him late, rounds 9, 10, 11, around that time. Because he's a tough guy. We know that. He's only lost to Rashid Warren, and that was a close loss. So if Inoue comes out here like I predict and TKOs Payano in a fun, exciting fight, I think that shows a lot of the detractors of Inoue really how good he is. Because there are a very vocal minority of people out there sort of discrediting Inoue or at least downplaying what he's achieved in his career, which is just crazy. But definitely should be one of the best fights for the WBA World Bantamweight title. And, of course, the start of the World Boxing Super Series second season on DAZN. Moving on to the co-main event, Kiryl Relikh versus Edwin Trinovsky, one of the other fights on a different bracket in the super lightweight tournament. This is probably one of the easiest fights to predict of the weekend. Even though I'm a big fan of Kiryl Relikh, his fights with Francis Bartholomew are fun fights, and how often can I say a Francis Bartholomew fight was fun? Definitely the dark horse in that tournament, but Trinovsky, a guy that we have not seen since he was knocked out in the first round against Julius Ndongo in like 45 seconds. A fight that I predicted, by the way, just saying. I see Relikh having another sort of showcase performance here against Edwin Trinovsky, and Trinovsky having another knockout loss. Whenever Relikh decides, whether it be the first, second, third, or fourth round, I think it's going to be an emphatic knockout for Relikh. And salute to him because he's definitely going to go on and give guys like Josh Taylor, Regis Prograis some tough work. The last fight on the triple header we're going to talk about on this card, Ken Shiro versus Milan Melendo. Ken Shiro, first off, salute to him, man. Let me remember how old he is. The guy is 26 years old, 13-0, undefeated champion. Rematched his toughest fight to date in his last fight and knocked him out in the second round with a vicious body shot. A guy that has a lot of potential. His hardest opponent to date against Milan Melendo, a guy that has beat Ryoichi Taguchi, a guy that will give anyone work. Ken Shiro's in for a very tough fight here. This is a fight that he may lose, actually. Melendo, just being the veteran, having close to triple the amount of fights that he does, he's a tough customer. I'm picking Ken Shiro slightly just because I think he's the better fundamental worker than Melendo. Melendo's more of the volume worker, a little more sloppy. And I think Ken Shiro should be able to catch him mid-combination throughout in a fun back-and-forth fight that might be, other than Inoue versus Payano, the best fight of the weekend. Again, shout out to this card. I'm hyped for it. We're going to move on to the next boxing card of note, also on DAZN, the Jessie Vargas versus Thomas Delorme fight on the same time as, obviously, UFC 229, a fight card that will not get any real just due or respect, which sometimes it rightfully deserves in some aspects, as we're obviously going to discuss some of that. And some of these fights and fight card or matchups are actually fun and entertaining. So let's get into it. Jessie Vargas versus Thomas Delorme, a fight that I think is more competitive than some people say, to give Eddie Hearn his credit. However, clearly not the main event that you want it to be. Opening up Matchroom USA on DAZN, Jessie Vargas versus Thomas Delorme. No, fam. Like, come on. That's not it. However, I do think it's a competitive fight. I think Delorme even though he has had significant losses against Odanis Ugas, which was controversial, and I think actually Thomas Olime beat Ugas in that. He had clear losses against Terence Crawford, Juan Carlos Abreu, and Abreu is closer to a Jessie Vargas. I think that's probably the analog we can use for this matchup. This will be fun, back and forth. Thomas Olime is going to have moments like in the Abreu fight, but I think Jessie Vargas is the more consistent worker. I think he has a little bit more power. Even though his power is obviously an overrated factor, I think he still has more of that. However, Thomas Olime's one saving grace is that he is clearly the faster athlete of the bunch. So he might be able to catch Jessie Vargas consistently and first throughout, and that might be key. So we might see Thomas Olime play spoiler, which he arguably did against Odanis Ugas on the Mayweather-McGregor undercard. I just don't see that happening. I just see him getting a little bit outworked here. I think Jessie Vargas will eventually win a tight decision where he's going to look bad again. He didn't look great against Adrian Broner, let's be honest. He looked slow in that fight. I think he's going to look slow here as well, to be quite honest. Moving on, though, Daniel Roman versus Gavin McDonald. Actually, a really fun back-and-forth fight. Gavin McDonald only losing to Ray Vargas, who arguably is the best guy at super bantamweight, other than maybe Isaac Dogbe. Daniel Roman, one of the other guys that arguably might be the best guy in the division. Should be a fun matchup for the WBA World Super Bantamweight title. I think Daniel Roman is a little bit cleaner in his technique. I think both guys do a lot of the same stuff. I think neither guy really has a clear advantage in either cardio, technique, power. Like, that's not really apparent in this matchup, in my opinion. But however, Daniel Roman, he's just a little more fundamental, a little more tight with his combinations. And plus, his left hook is more of a specialty shot than whatever Gavin McDonald has. I can see Daniel Roman really working the left hook to the body and to the head throughout the fight and outworking Gavin McDonald for a clear decision win. Should be a fun fight, though, even though I think it's pretty clear that Daniel Roman should win just because he clearly is also the more fundamental fighter here, even though they both are pretty neck and neck in almost every category. Artur Beterbiev versus Callum Johnson for the IBF World Light Heavyweight title. A fight that I think is going to be a lot more competitive than people might think. Callum Johnson, sort of similar to the Daniel Roman Gavin McDonald matchup. Callum Johnson having a great left hook, however, does not have clear fundamental techniques he needs to beat a guy like Artur Beterbiev. To beat a guy like Artur Beterbiev, you need good footwork and a great jab. You need those as a foundational level. And Callum Johnson does not have a jab, does not really have great footwork. He wants to get up close and throw that left hook over and over again because he really can't set it up. Artur Beterbiev can throw at least straight shots a little more consistently. His jab is pretty good. And plus, just a credentialed amateur. Beterbiev should definitely win this one, in my opinion, in a fun back-and-forth fight. Probably knock out Callum Johnson late rounds 7 to 10 in a fun fight. I just think Callum Johnson won't have enough answers for what Beterbiev will be presenting. He might catch him with that left hook, and it might be over because Beterbiev has had some moments where he's been clipped. I just don't think Callum Johnson sets up that left hook well enough. And the fight that's getting obviously the most ire on the fight card, Jarrell Miller, Big Baby Miller versus Thomas and Dominic. And look, this is obviously a Big Baby Miller showcase fight, as it should be. And as it should be, but as it obviously is. And also, Jarrell Miller, a guy that, went from fighting Fred Cassie, Gerald Washington, to Maurice Wack, Yoandu Hoppus, Thomas and Dominic, in that order. A fighter that was on a rise in contenders. Fred Cassie's a borderline top 15, top 20 heavyweight. Same with Gerald Washington. And instead of continuing that progression towards the top 10, top 5, he decided, no, I'm going to take worse fights consistently going forward. That's my only issue with this, really, is that it is an obvious decline in opponent level for Jarrell Miller from fight to fight to fight now. Going on, 3 fights in a row? And it makes no sense. He was peaking with, the Fred Cassie, Gerald Washington fight. He should have instantly fought a Dylan White, Luis Ortiz, Joseph Parker, Carlos Takam, Derek Chisora, somebody of that ilk after the Jared Washington fight, and he didn't. You know, he's fought worse opponent after worse opponent, and there's not much else to say on that end. Moving on to the next fight card, which is one I'm not going to spend too much time on. Jack Catterall versus O'Hara Davis, a fight that I think is going to be a lot closer than maybe the haters of O'Hara Davies might want to admit. Davies is a guy that, while doesn't work off the jab, doesn't have really a consistent work rate, and Catterall does, I think he has the timing and power to play spoiler here. I'm not picking Davies, but I'm just saying there is a real chance that he can win this fight. I've never been impressed with Jack Catterall. I think he's a rather mediocre fighter. I think both these guys are rather mediocre. But I think Catterall is just a little more consistent with his work, works behind a jab, has some actual volume to his offense, unlike Davies, who just looks for that counter right hand. So I'm picking Catterall slightly, but Davies could play spoiler here, absolutely. Only other fight I'm going to talk about on this card is Nicola Adams facing Isabel Milan for the interim WBO flyweight title. Shout out to Nicola Adams, gold medalist in the Olympics. You know, people really don't talk about her in the category of Katie Taylor and Clarissa Shields, but those three women were the three women that won gold in the 2012 Olympics. It was Clarissa Shields, Katie Taylor, and Nicola Adams. All three women won gold. And yet, Nicola Adams obviously does not get the amount of hype or media attention that those two women do. Unfortunate, because this should be a breakout performance for her, potentially. I think it's the best fight on the card, even though Isabel Milan is not the greatest fighter. I may be completely honest here. Definitely not an athlete. She has a sneaky right hand. She likes to get up close and mix it up. Nicola Adams is a fighter that has some trouble keeping a fight at range from her jab. She kind of gets sucked into a brawl. So I can see this fight turning into a fun back-and-forth affair. But if Nicola Adams is able to keep Milan at the end of her jab, keep this an outside game, she should win rather dominant and impressively at only 4-0, going for an interim title against an opponent that is 22-4-1. Respect to Nicola Adams. Salute to her. Last fight we're going to talk about before we actually go to callers. We're going to go to Santiago and then get to some news of the day, sort of mix up the monotony of the show. Sirkat Sorrungzivia versus Iran Diaz. The return. And R.I.P. Iran Diaz. Poor guy is about to get brutally stopped in this fight. Iran Diaz, I know they've been sort of promoting him as this tough opponent from Mexico, but he's a guy that's been knocked out before. By, I think it was it Juan Carlos Navarrete? No, hold on, let me check it out. I forget who he lost against. Juan Hernandez Navarrete. And his best win is Luis Concepcion in 2017. Come on, fam. Everyone's been beating Luis Concepcion after he's been like steadily declining. All the young guys, Khalid Yaffe, all of them have been fighting him to sort of get that name on their resume. So that doesn't mean that much to me personally. However, Sirkat Sorrungzivia, his just overall style, regardless of the wins he's had and the controversial losses he's had, he's going to beat the shit out of Iran Diaz. Like, this could be a brutal, very quick fight. Diaz is a guy that fights on the inside, has no pop, really sloppy technique. I think Rungsvia is going to get on the inside, slip a shot, come back with the left hook, and ice Diaz early, like 2 or 3 rounds tops. This does not last till the halfway point even. If it does, I think that's probably due to Rungsvia taking not rounds off, but going rounds with the tune-up. That's how I perceive that to go down, because otherwise this should be a rather easy fight for Sirkat Sorrungzivia. To sort of summarize everything, UFC 229, Khabib versus Conor McGregor. I'm picking Khabib slightly in a coin flip of a fight. Great card overall on that pay-per-view portion. Obviously, DAZN having a ton of fights to deliver to the fans this weekend. Plus, I believe Luis Nery is fighting as well on ESPN Plus against a no-name opponent this weekend, so tune in for that one as well. I believe that's a Friday card. A ton of fights to get to, a ton of fights to talk about with obviously you guys, the callers. Call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 again. The queue. We're going to go to our sometime co-host, Santiago, and get his take on all the action this weekend. Santiago, how are you doing, man? And how can you sort of piece together all of the action we have? What are your priorities? What are you excited to see? What aren't you excited to see? Let me hear it.
The only thing I haven't been excited to see is the conflicting info regarding the ticket price points for Wilder versus Fury. Other than that, I'm pretty much excited for most of the fights that we're seeing this weekend.
What do you mean conflicting ticket prices? Let me know. Spill the tea.
Yeah, man. So, like, obviously, you know the tickets went on sale today. Box office. They're on sale
quickly,
online only.
Very quickly.
Right?
It's being reported by Lance Pugmire that within 25 minutes, they sold over $1 million worth of tickets. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, it's true. I heard that too. And, yeah, man, you know, they told us that the box office sale would be tomorrow, not today, that today was online only. Plus, depending on who saw it, you only had 3 to 4 price points available, with the cheapest being $207. And that's at the moment they went on sale.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
You know, they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
I am Phil. I'm very Phil.
I'm sorry. Go on.
So that was very appropriate, man. And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker, right? So obviously, I think there must be something wrong with their site or something, because there can't be only 3 to 4 price points available, right? We saw what was reported to be like $75 at the cheapest. So I decided I'm going to call the box office. And guess what the box office says? Our current cheapest ticket is going for $400.
Whoa.
It's bullshit.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Yo, so it looks like, Santiago, we are not going to Wilder Fury live fight chat December 1st. Get hyped.
Yep, that's the consolation prize at this point, man. I'm still going to go to the box office tomorrow to see what happens, because I guarantee you, if they end up saying the first thing out of their mouth is sold out at the morning of the sale, ooh, there are going to be a lot of pissed off buyers and a lot of scalpers that are going to be looking to be dead.
Or it just means the secondary market is going to be so inflated in terms of price. I didn't think, because remember when we first heard news about this, it was supposed to be like $75 was the cheapest ticket. Am I imagining that?
Right?
Like that was an actual reported fact that, hey, the lowest prices were going to be $75, and now it's at least $200, maybe $400 for the lowest prices. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, oh yeah, man. Yeah, I sent the screenshot too of what they said was supposed to be the cheapest and when they went on sale too, man. So it's kind of like, yo, what in the flying fuck? That is one hell of a way to fuck off the freaking blue-collar worker.
Heyman, hold on. Al Heyman, I need to tell you this, man.
Just send me location.
I need to talk to you, fam, because this is ridiculous. Because, like you said, it's the amount of conflicting reports on this ticket price is insane. I can understand if they always were going to sell it at a high price. I get that. But start that way. Start with telling us the lowest ticket's going to be this much. I'm much better off that way than saying, oh, very first, the lowest price is going to be for everyone that can afford anything in life. $75. I think anyone that is in even the lower class, including myself, can save $75 for a ticket. That is 100% doable in a few months. Now it's $200. Now it's $400. God. Well, Santiago, let's obviously, keep us updated on that tomorrow. But let's get to some happier topics, because that is upsetting.
Yes.
Let's get to the fights this weekend.
Yes, and a special one for you, too, considering that I want to be there for you, too, man. Because I'm not going to lie, I'm looking forward to seeing the return of Mystic Mac, you know. Obviously, we know what he's been up to in the intermittent. Obviously, he had the fight with Mayweather, you know. Khabib has been more or less doing his own thing, making his name and everything. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. My current prediction as of now might change my mind once we get to fight day, but as of right now, my prediction is Conor McGregor knockout in the second round. I think that with the reach advantage that he does have over Khabib, I think that might play to his advantage because he is an exceptional striker, and I definitely think that as long as he keeps the wrestling game moot, then it's his fight to lose. It's definitely his fight to lose. You know, obviously, I know that you and I are both excited to see the return of the monster, Naoya Inoue, on the World Boxing Super Series on the Zone. Damn, she has to be at 4 in the damn morning, though, I swear. I'm going to be up so late for that one, but I'm excited to see him. Co-main event is really good, too. Can't wait to see Kiryl Relikh back in action as well. Last time I saw him, I think, was against Francis Bartholomew in the rematch. And, you know, really the only fight that doesn't really draw my interest is the Vargas Delorme fight. That one's just kind of there for me at this point.
Oh,
really, there's only two things I care about.
You're hyped for Big Baby
and
Dominic? You're hyped for Big Baby and Dominic?
Not really. I mean, I've always had my reservations about Big Baby Miller. I mean, you've been there when I told you that I felt that at some point Big Baby was in a way that I thought even JP could have beaten him, even though JP didn't think so. So I don't know, just to see him go up against a guy like Atomic, a guy that I haven't really seen since like the Vitaly Klitschko days, doesn't really pique my interest. I expect him to win. He's a smaller guy, former cruiserweight. You know, what more is there to say regarding that?
What about the return of Serkat Sorungsvi, our man, our boy?
Always excited to see Kit Kat back in action. Obviously looking forward to him doing his thing. Dan shame he wasn't in the last Superfly. And outside of the fact that it's under an MMA promotional company, I'm excited. Can't wait to see him back in action. You know, we can't get hyped for Serkat.
Have you seen any of Jack Catterall and O'Hara Davies?
I think O'Hara Davies fought last week, didn't he?
No.
He didn't?
No, that's this week.
Okay. No, then I have not seen. I saw another Davies fighting.
Okay. Just wanted to maybe get your take on that. What else? Anything else, Santiago? Any more fights you want to break down? Daniel Roman, Gavin McDonough, Artur Beterbiev, Callum Johnson. I don't think you really talked about Ken Shiro, Milan Melendo. Anthony Pettis, Tony Ferguson, you know, Derek Lewis, Alexander Volkov. Any of those fights pique your interest?
No, I pretty much said what I had to say regarding any of the topics that did have my general interest. The rest, I'll probably talk to you more in depth come fight night.
Sounds good, Santiago. And again, if you want to get back on in after the news of the day, just press 1 to get out of the queue. Press 1 to get back in. You know how to do that. But let's get to the news of the day, because we do have actually a lot of news, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, why should I say that? But, you know, it's one of those days. We just have a lot to get to. And a lot of it's not real concrete news. Like, obviously, the WBC had their convention in Kiev, Ukraine, and like every convention time. Jay, call in, okay? I'm tired of you, Jay, always giving me shit for not having the call line and the show on long enough, and you always talking about calling in. Yeah, you never call in, Jay.
I want smoke.
You never call in, okay?
Don't be mad on me.
I'm sorry, but come on, Jay. But anyway, saying what the fuck is up with the 2:30 main event though? God, check out my show yesterday if you haven't. I think it was yesterday I talked about that. Was that yes? Was that yesterday's breaking news, I believe? Anyways, WBC Convention, like I was talking about, had a ton of orders and whatever you want to call them come out. Some ridiculous, such as Adrian Broner versus Jorge Linares at 140. That's just not happening. Shout out to the WBC trying, though. Love that matchup if it were to happen. It's not happening, though. Let's be honest. But like I said, let's get to some other news of the day. WBC Convention, Canelo Alvarez being allowed a voluntary defense. Jay saying, how do I call in? 323-870-4051. If you are international, email me. Though I do believe if you're like in Canada, I think Jay's in Canada, you can call in this number. I believe it doesn't cost money if you're in Canada. I could be wrong about that, but I know like Canadian Jose can call in via this number and it doesn't cost him money. At least that's what I believe. Or email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com. Get a free international permanent call-in link like Skype. But Canelo Alvarez, obviously the WBC champion, being allowed a voluntary defense. We already knew this. This was not, shocking news. It's just a confirmation of their rules and regulations. But them announcing that Charlo versus Golovkin winner will be the mandatory for Canelo after Canelo's voluntary defense. I mean, obviously, we love that fight. But let's also be completely honest here and realistic here. That's an unlikely fight to happen. Maybe Triple G takes it in a way to get to Canelo, but we also know that Triple G and Tom Loeffler are putting in a, request to bypass this rule and be the mandatory regardless. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they really have any intent to do that. Plus, Charlo has the Al Haymon backing. Let's not forget that Charlo is not some independent guy out here without a major backer to get him these spots in the sanctioning bodies. He does. He has Al Haymon, just like Triple G. Oh wait, he doesn't. He has Tom Loeffler, and even though Tom Loeffler is a great promoter and does some really good work, he's just not on the level of Al Haymon in terms of bargaining power for these sanctioning bodies. We know that. So I don't think Triple G is going to bypass this. I think he's either going to have to fight Charlo or fight someone else via another sanctioning body, which he probably will do. He'll go to ESPN or DAZN and fight someone there. I think that's most likely the case. Even though I think we all want Charlo Golovkin, I think that we all think that would be a fun fight and a sort of another passing the torch moment for the younger generation like Canelo, like Charlo. I just don't see it happening. I see Triple G steering clear of a Jamal Charlo fight. Stylistically, that's just a really tough fight for Triple G. But sticking on, the WBC convention and what they've sort of requested or ordered, Gary Russell Jr. versus Leo Santa Cruz being ordered by the WBC. God damn. Thank you. This is clearly the fight to make in the featherweight division. It would clearly make the number one guy in that division. And shout out to the WBC trying to sort of pressure these fighters to do it. But we all know that fight is not happening unless Al Haymon signs off on it. Ezelandi Lara versus J-Rock, Julian Williams, an eliminator to become Charlo's WBC mandatory. That is Jamel Charlo at 154 pounds, obviously. For anyone that may get Charlo's confused. I like this. I think, obviously, I kind of want Lara to win this one. So to see Ezelandi Lara face Jamel Charlo. To see J-Rock face Charlo doesn't really interest me. I think J-Rock has just looked flat since the Jamal Charlo fight and his run to that. Like the Ishe Smith fight, he looked pretty poor in. I think he was at the Tony Harrison fight. He looked kind of poor in. What about the Willie Nelson fight? Who did he? I forget. Anyways, I haven't been that really impressed with Julian Williams post Jamal Charlo's. Ezelandi Lara, even though he lost to Jarrett Hurd, that was a fun fight of the year contender, if not fight of the year. And plus, he still looked every bit of an elite competitor. 905 number. If you want to call in and get in, press 1 to get in the queue. 905 number. I don't know if you are just listening or you actually want to get on the show. So 905. Oh, you press 1. There you go. I'm going to bet money this is Jay because I actually called him out. And I bet he felt that peer pressure. Jay, is this you?
Yo, what's good, man?
What's up, Jay?
You already know what it is. It's Jay.
How you doing,
what
man?
Peer pressure? What's going on?
What's going on, man? Let's talk these fights, man.
I want smoke.
Good. You've been asking for it. What's good? I'm here, man. What's happening? How you doing?
I'm just happy you're calling in, Jay. You've been a long-time listener, man, and always support, so I'm glad you're calling in.
Yeah, man.
I want to get your perception on these fights, man. I always value your opinion in the live chat. Give me your breakdown on all the fights this weekend, and just you can go off tangent if you want to talk about the Wilder Fury press conference that's been going on this week. Talk about that as well. I can't think of any other news that's been on the news cycle this day, but if you want to branch off, go on, man.
There's a lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of ugly, a lot of good though. Wilder Fury, finally, that's a thing. You feel me? I've been waiting a long time to see these heavyweights fight each other. You know, AJ's still out here ducking and everything. So I'm happy to see him. I'm happy to see Wilder. He's finally getting the fights that he wants, those big name fights. As far as I'm concerned, AJ's not even in the conversation for one of the best out there right now because he's not fighting the best. But I'm not even talking about that's a whole different subject. I'm not even talking about AJ. Wilder, he's my boy. He's my guy. There's a lot of other good fights happening though. What else? Inoue, he's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
What day is that next? What day is that going to be?
That's going to be Sunday morning. Sunday morning.
Yeah, man. No, that's one of my favorite guys right now. He's a monster. I want to see him. Is that the boxing series?
Yep.
Is that fight?
Yep.
That's the first round, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, man. That's some good stuff. I want to see that. There's a lot of good, but still, man, I see a lot of ducking, man. Still, it's not on the level of like the UFC. The UFC's giving us the fights. Well, I'm not even gonna start talking about that shit. That 230 shit. Other than that card, we're getting the fights that we need. I was looking forward to Saunders Andrade, but I mean, what's up with these guys? The whole, USADA, VADA, WADA. Those guys are catching everybody. They're like the bad wolves of sports right now. But yeah, no, there's a lot of good going on though.
Hey Jay, I want to get your take on that UFC 230 card because you brought it up in the chat and in this call. Bullshit,
man.
Oh, it is some bullshit. If they had just made Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier the main event, would you have been happy?
I don't understand why we need to have a title fight as a main event. In 2018, we don't as long as it's a big name, as long as the people are excited for it, I don't see a problem. Like you see in boxing, how many times do you see non-title fights main eventing over title fights?
Mm-hmm.
All the time, no?
Look at this weekend, DAZN.
So what's the problem in this case?
Like Jessie Vargas, Thomas
Delorme.
Delorme.
Title fight. At least I don't mind. Nate Diaz, Dustin Poirier, I wouldn't mind even if that wasn't for a title.
Mm-hmm.
The 165, it adds a little cherry on top. But even if it was a non-title fight, I still would have been 100% for it. Nate's a big name. Mm-hmm. Poirier's on a 6-7 fight winning streak. Mm-hmm. He's knocking everybody out. That's a main event in my opinion. I don't know who the fuck Sijara Eubanks is. I didn't watch anything beyond the second episode of that tough season.
I didn't watch a single episode. So, I didn't watch a single episode. It's okay, Jay. I haven't watched a single episode this season either.
Come on, man. And he got this girl headlining MSG.
A UFC pay-per-view.
What? You feel me?
She is. I think her record's 5-3 or 4-2, and she's headlining a UFC pay-per-view.
What? You know what I mean? That's blasphemy, fam. you got. Let me see this card right now, and that card's actually
It's a good card.
It's not stacked, but
it's a good card.
I mean, it ain't. You know what I'm saying? It's not bad.
Like
you seen it?
If they had just,
it has a whole nice little middleweight stack going on.
If they had just bit the bullet,
you know what I mean?
and
You got the
if they had just bit the bullet,
the Weidmans.
Jay, if they just bit the bullet and
me?
put John Jones, Alexander Gustafsson 2 as the main event and just deal with the PR backlash, that would have made that card one of the best cards of the year.
When's his suspension up?
It's
October,
up.
No?
It's up in a couple weeks. Yeah, he could be good for that card, but they're not going to do it. I think they're worried about the PR backlash. So they're trying, and I'm going to get to some John Jones news.
What backlash? They did Brock fought Mark Hunt on like a few months after doing a WWE show. Where was the testing for that?
No, Jay, I agree with you. No, Jay, I agree with you.
Exemption. What backlash? No, people don't get. Oh man, there's some fuckery going on. There's some shadiness. There's some shady stuff going on, man. I don't know what it is.
I agree with you that there's
I don't know.
there is no backlash for that, but I think they perceive there to possibly be, and that's why they're worried about it. But John Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson. How many people do
you see there? If you see, you look at John's Instagram, look at every post he has. All of them. Hey man, you'll be back. Hey, we still love you, man. You know, he could fuck up another 10 times, and people would still love him just because he's Bones Jones. You know?
Yeah. I agree.
I don't see any PR backlash, any like just hatred or like, you know what I'm saying? I don't see any problem. Would you have a problem if he came back?
No.
At 2:30?
No, but I think they think that. I think they wrongly think that. I don't think they would be, but I think they inside their UFC bubble in corporate headquarters are thinking, "Oh, we don't want the media getting at us. We don't want the fans being mad. So let's just push John towards December. Let's do that. Let's not actually put him, 2 weeks after suspension up. Then it looks really fishy."
But they've done that before.
No, they have.
They do that with how many times do you see them booking fights with guys who were suspended, and the fight is booked like a couple weeks after? Wasn't 214 booked like a month after he got lifted his suspension, his last suspension?
I want to say so.
214 was really close to when his suspension ended.
I want to think you're right about that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I think you're right about that. Jay, let me get your let me get your take on the main event for UFC 229, Conor McGregor versus Khabib. What are you thinking about that one?
Oh man, this guy got me on the spot right now. As far as I know, that's as 50-50 of a fight as you could probably get right now in MMA. Yeah, I'm purposefully withholding a prediction because I can't call nothing on that. That's a 50-50 fight. I can see it. The way I think about that fight, I don't see it being close. It'll either be one-sided for Conor or one-sided for Khabib. You feel me?
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the way, because their styles are so completely opposite that if one of them ends up getting a lead in the fight, I think they're just going to take over. Either Conor's going to completely just school him, or Khabib's just going to maul him.
Yep.
So, as far as, would you agree with that? Yeah. So
yeah, I think it's either going to look like the Eddie Alvarez fight, where Khabib's on the outside, worried about trying to go for a takedown and getting caught standing, and then McGregor's just swarming him. Or Khabib's going to
look like that.
Or Khabib's going to slip that left hand and then get a takedown, and then it's going to be game over from there. I picked Khabib earlier in the show to do that, but it's like you said, 50-50. Like, either Conor's going to land that left hand, or he's going to miss that left hand, and Khabib takes him down. And that's really all this fight comes down to.
So right now, you're like, in your mind, Conor's up. Conor, he's your guy right now to take it.
No, Khabib.
Oh,
Khabib.
Oh, so you're still with Khabib?
Yes.
Do you see it as going decision?
No. I don't think this fight lasts long either way. Like, either Conor knocks him out in 2 or 3 minutes, or Khabib submits him or beats him up and then submits him in a round and a half, 2 rounds, 3 rounds tops. This fight's not going into the championship rounds. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's going to be second, third. I don't see you going past the third.
Yeah.
Especially for Conor, his gas tank ain't really built for that. I don't know if that's a training thing or if that's just a him thing, but yeah, it's not going 5, 100%. But the rest of the card, I'm not. Wait, is this 230? I'm looking at 229.
229 has 229 has Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis is a good fight. Derek Lewis, Alexander Volkov is a good fight.
Yeah.
I like the Sergio Pettis.
I
like the Sergio Pettis Huzio Formiga fight a lot, even though that's not on the pay-per-view portion. I like that fight. Anytime
prelim fight right there.
Yeah, anytime OSP Ovan St. Preux fights, I'm excited. That could be a huge knockout.
Hey, my boy Vicente Luke.
Yeah,
he's in there too. It's upcoming right there. O'Malley's got canceled. Oh man,
that's so sad.
I don't even want to talk about that. That's
R.I.P.
There's a lot of controversy about that. You think that has something to do about the Bones Jones snitching?
You know, I've heard
shit?
It's like I don't think so. It's like when
you got the scoop, you got the inside. You know.
It's not.
You got all the media.
It's not that
special talk. So
it's not John Jones. It's just like when the Joanna Jedrzjczyk, when that conspiracy theory came out, that the reason why that fight got canceled is because she got snitched on, and USADA now with their new policy of not releasing names of people that have popped dirty until they figure out the case. They thought Joanna popped and John Jones ratted on her. I just don't think that's the case. I don't know who John Jones snitched on, but I don't think it's Sean O'Malley.
Simple, this guy's on it, or is it like what level of snitching? Because
it has to be about people. It can't be about techniques or labs. It has to be, I know about person
so you
X,
think
Y, Z.
Names like, yo, this guy, that guy, that guy. You think he's like,
he can either say this guy took it or this guy sold it. And he has to say one of those two things, basically.
Damn, man. I can't look at that. I can't look at my boy Jones and save after that. I don't know. That's some stuff you end up missing for. You can't be snitching out here like that, man. Damn. But I mean, you had to do what you had to do. I don't hate it because if he didn't do it, what was he looking at? Like another year, maybe?
Oh, no. He was looking at, because this was his second time popping. You have to remember that. This wasn't a first-time offense. So he was supposed to get a 30-month suspension. 30 months, so over 2 years, 2.5 years.
Damn.
And he got 15 months. He got a 15-month reduction. He got half of his time.
Damn. You saw us out here making deals like that. Oh, man. Oh, fuck. I mean, in that case, then, fuck, I'll snitch too. I don't give a fuck. Hey, in the world, man, in my career, people want to see me shine. Hey, yo, my boy. Hey, I know you probably helped me get on the same shit too, but hey, I gotta say a few names, But nah, man, that's some shady shit. As simple as that, huh? You say a couple names and then your suspension goes down. I don't know. That's the thing. This whole USADA thing, there's a lot of loopholes behind it. I don't know.
It is just like the VADA. It is just like the VADA program with the WBC. It is, it's like on a bigger scale. It's what the IOC and WADA are having issues with. There's just corruption in PD regulation. There just is. And it's admitted corruption.
Exact same thing going on with WADA and VADA.
Well, remember WADA, and I need to find this interview and
but they're not to the same extent as USADA.
It's right? Not, but it's
like the intensity of it.
The difference with WADA in terms
of at your door 2 a.m, they don't give a fuck.
WADA WADA has had some corrupt things or shady things happen in the past 6 months or so. They have just sort of licensed their Russian version of USADA. It's USADA with an R in front of it. And if anyone has seen the Icarus documentary on Netflix about the Russian,
I have.
That's
shady shit.
That's the Russian USADA entity.
People come up dead and shit, man.
So
that's what it is.
WADA and IOC have just reestablished their relationship with that shady corporation, and the head of the IOC and WADA has come out and said basically we kind of give up on innovating on PED regulation. He doesn't really say that, but he does. He paraphrases it, but he says we don't know what to do anymore. The athletes are ahead of us on the curve. They kind of just flow up, like they throw up the white flag, and it's admitted by the head of WADA and IOC. So it's one of those things.
What's their job? What are they?
It's
what
PR.
Are they getting paid for? I don't get
it.
It's
PR, man. It's PR. Like,
it's regulating the level of it, so it's not too intense.
I think. On a semi level, I think the UFC. I think the UFC with USADA.
You can't beat drug users.
No,
the whole PD users. You can't beat that.
They're ahead of you every time.
Technology is it's a different level now.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I mean, the issues we have with WADA and the IOC, UFC and USADA, WBC and VADA, those are issues that are not going to be fixed anytime soon unless there is massive government oversight. And that's not happening anytime soon in the US, in the UK, which are predominantly the two biggest markets for those two, for PD regulation, period. And if WADA is giving up on really, really sticking Russia where they need to be in terms of PD regulation, then we know what the game is. Like, it's time for us to just accept that it's a PR tactic used by the WBC, by the UFC, so they can go to media, go to their investors and say, hey, we regulate our sport.
They're trying.
We make sure that guys aren't on PEDs. But I think that's really just a PR tactic. It's a way to not be sued. It's a way to, save your ass from a Mark Hunt lawsuit, for example. It's stuff like that. That's what really these programs are for. It's not really to clean up the sport.
I agree 100%. But the thing is, they could do it to a lesser degree and still be, because I don't want to be that guy, but like, yo, let's be honest. Ever since USADA came in, these fights, I'm not seeing too many Mark Hunt versus Bigfoot Silvas. I'm not seeing, you feel me?
Yep.
I'm not seeing too many Frankie Edgars versus Gray Maynards or those wars that we had back in the day. It's not. I'm not saying that those guys are this and that, but it's not a coincidence. The level of fights is just. I'm not saying that they're not the same, but it's just people aren't the same. Hannah Burrell.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree completely.
Aldo.
I have 2 points for that very quickly.
People missing weight. Go ahead.
Obviously, if, let's say, you or I, regular citizens, blow out a knee, blow out a rotator cuff, whatever it is, we can get steroids. We can get those banned substances to help us heal. Those substances are designed to heal injuries most of the time. So obviously, there is inherent use for fighters, especially when your entire job is to destroy your body, to degrade your muscles, to degrade your tendons and ligaments and your brain. Yeah, PEDs and drugs on that banned substance list that me and you can get if we have those same injuries is helpful. And I think on a very base level, I think at one point we need to have a discussion about how we should start actually allowing some of these banned substances to actually prolong fighters and athletes' careers, their health. There's a legit argument for that. Not everything. Not every fighter should be putting up HGH and EPO, but there are some banned substances that do help for injuries, that do help for recovery, that regular people take the athletes can't, and that I think is counterintuitive to what we want to actually achieve as a sport.
Facts, and you got some. I agree with that, and you got some guys who, like, just naturally as they get older, like even compared to other people, not even athletes, just other regular people like Vitor or like Bigfoot. Apparently those guys, like Vitor, actually needed testosterone. Like his natural levels were like to the point of like a 12-year-old or some shit or something, or like a 60-year-old, and he was fighting in the UFC with that. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Like in that case, where you're not even performing to the level of regular people. I mean, you're not even like, you tell me you have the testosterone of an old man. Like, how are you supposed to compete against the best in the world? So shit like that. Like there should be like you said, like some type of like leeway. You feel me?
Well, it's not leeway. It's in the word. It's in the word regulation. Like we should reform our regulation, where obviously there are substances that are on that ban list, whether it's in competition, out of competition, whatever it is, that clearly should not be there. That if we have some honest discussion about it and some level-headed, non-corrupt bureaucrats in those positions, these reforms get done, and fighters and athletes worldwide are better off. But the bureaucracies, the corruption we have in these entities like WADA, IOC, for example, especially them, they roadblock some of these reforms. Jay, anything else, brother? Oh, Jay, I think you just dropped off there, man. Oh, that's so sad, Jay. Well, I really enjoyed your call. I hope you have a good one. Hope you enjoy the show. Let's wrap up and get through the news as quickly as we can. Anthony Jarrell versus Avani Yildirim for the WBC title. David Benavidez now champ in recess. Obviously, David Benavidez popped for a banned substance out of competition that he should not have been tested for, which was cocaine. And now the WBC is deciding that he needs to take some time off and recover. I don't know exactly. Get his life together. I don't know really how serious the quote-unquote cocaine addiction, air quotes. I don't know if that's the case. I'm not implying that. All I know is a young fighter like David Benavidez could pop for some cocaine. Damn. And now that we have Anthony Jarrell versus Avani Yildirim for the vacant belt. God, what are we watching here, man? This is just god awful. Avani Yildirim, the guy that got knocked out by Chris Eubank, is now fighting for a vacant belt. Get hyped, am I right? Joseph Parker returning December 15th. Francisco Vargas versus Eduardo Hernandez for WBC Eliminator. Obviously, the winner of that fighting Miguel Berchelt. Johnny in the chat. What's up, Johnny? Saying time threw me off completely. I'm sorry about that. I know I'm late in terms of the show time. We're usually live 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Jay saying I lost you, broski. It's all good, fam. I'll haul up later. No problem, man. Thank you for the call. Always enjoy new perspectives on this stuff. And plus, you had some really good points about PD regulation, I think. I mean, you are probably agreeing on a lot of things, let's be honest. What else? Any more news of the day? Oh, yes. John Jones, Alexander Gustafsson, something me and Jay were talking about on his phone call. John Jones reportedly holding out for pay-per-view money. Gustafsson calls him a coward per bloody elbow. I mean, hold on. Let me find a soundbite for this one.
They're selling y'all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Yep, that's about it. John Jones deserves pay-per-view money. He is obviously one of the few people that can draw on pay-per-view in the UFC above 300,000 pay-per-view buys. And plus the return of him against Gustafsson in I don't know if it's a highly anticipated rematch, but for us MMA fans, it will be. On him, that might translate to the casuals. He deserves a split of the pay-per-view just like Alexander Gustafsson does. Let's be completely honest. And also, a quick reminder, go check out this article because it tells you some of the purse figures in terms of pay-per-view bonuses, etc. MMA fighters at the top get a very small number compared to, let's say, their counterparts in boxing. John Jones, a guy that's done anywhere from 600 to 800,000 on average pay-per-view buys, 800,000 pay-per-view buys. He's only gotten $1 million or $2 million out of the pay-per-view bonus, when other guys like Canelo, Triple G get 10 million plus, 20 million plus. But yeah, definitely. I mean, this is pretty obvious. John Jones should hold out for money. He should deserve money, even regardless of his suspension and 2 times popping for PEDs. Jay saying facts. I need to call in when I hear you say some craziness so I can talk my shit. Jay,
I want smoke.
Always, man. Whenever I say something crazy, you can always call in, man. I'm always up for a debate. I mean, no offense to Santiago. Santiago never really debates me. It's okay.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
It's normal. It's okay. But yeah, I love a good debate, Jay. You can always call in. Joanna Jedrzjczyk, like I talked about for that UFC 230 event, she is rather upset. Has a lengthy statement on her IG, and it's that time. As Anthony Walker, good friend of the show, who is actually on site for this one, as I get it over there. He is on site at UFC 229. Salute to him. It's dramatic reading time. Get hyped. Joanna Jedrzjczyk on her official IG. Me pulling out of a fight? Never. Here is the truth. Yesterday, I was informed that my fight had been canceled. Unfortunately, I received this news from journalists, so I was very, very shocked. God. I feel angry and sad. The already signed contract for the fight on the 8th of December was ignored. Oh, God. They were trying to persuade me into taking the fight in November, at the same time depriving me of a chance to properly prepare for the fight during the camp. And I'll be honest, I'm not going to read the rest of it, but definitely go read Joanna Jedrzjczyk. She has like 3 whole pages of this stuff, so go read it. Joanna Jedrzjczyk coming at the UFC. And to make it more of a myopic stance and sort of a talking point, we've seen the last, 3 days, 2 fighters that have been long-time company men. I'm going to use that term, even though obviously Joanna Jedrzjczyk is a woman. Company people for the UFC, long time, that have worked for the company, that have been obvious darlings of the UFC in Daniel Cormier and Joanna Jedrzjczyk. Now be screwed over by the UFC. Daniel Cormier, obviously, in the past, 2 days, Dana White's been saying he's going to strip him of his light heavyweight title. Now Joanna Jedrzjczyk, having signed a bout agreement, having found out that her fight is not happening from the media, which has been a long trending run of what the UFC does and how they treat fighters. Man, how can you be doing this if you're the UFC? You have a class action lawsuit on your hands. Mark Hunt's suing you. Leslie Smith is suing you. You have Project Spearhead to deal with. And now you've upset 2 people that, in all intents and purposes, have always had your back. Daniel Cormier and Joanna Jedrzjczyk. And now you have, in very public ways, pissed them the fuck off. So, I just don't understand the thinking, like me and Jay were talking about for the UFC. I don't understand the thinking in their corporate executive offices right now. Like, what's WME and ING and their conference calls with Dana White and Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard, and they're saying, yeah, let's just let's take away Joanna Jedrzjczyk versus Valentina Shevchenko, a fight that everyone was hyped for. Let's take it off without really alerting Joanna. Let's not tell her. Let's not send her a text, an email. Fuck that. We don't need to, even though she signed a bout agreement and we're right in the middle of negotiation for her fight, basically. Let's make another one the month before for a fight that no one wants to see, main eventing a card that everyone wants another fight to main event. Tell me how that makes sense. Like, I really want an answer from the UFC. I know none of us are going to get it. I know even the big-time journalists in the sport, that are on the scene are not going to get that answer. They're not going to ask the question, and I understand why. But it is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like Jay says, this is the bullshit the UFC be doing. Shaking my head. Yes, and it's just, goddamn, like, it's any ounce of common sense, in my opinion, would have anyone in that office of the UFC saying, hey, whoa. You know, we've been doing this a lot lately about, you know, canceling fights, telling fights they're official without ever alerting people that it's happening, without contracts being signed or with contracts being signed. And maybe we shouldn't do that with Joanna Jedrzjczyk because she's always really been a good company person for the UFC. Always done what we've asked her, always done every media obligation we've asked her to do, has headline cards, been a staple to our women's divisions, post Ronda Rousey. Let's not piss her off. She's beloved by the fans. Let's not piss off a fan favorite and somebody that has worked for us whenever we've asked at the drop of a hat. Let's not piss that one off. We just pissed off Daniel Cormier, but guess what? They did that. And there's no clear reason as to why we're seeing this recent trend of pissing off everyone that's been good to you, basically. I'm trying to remember, has there been a Don Cerrone feud with the UFC recently? Like, that's another guy you would see the UFC fucking over as of recent. If this is a long-running trend, I think it's going to keep continuing. That if fighters did not go sign their identification card at Project Spearhead, come on. Like, you got to do this. You can't have cases like this keep happening. It's ridiculous. But to sort of transition, because that is upsetting, go read Joanna Jedrzjczyk's statement on her IG. It's a good one. But some good news. Darren Till has announced he will move up to middleweight. Thank you. He has listened to the fans, listened to the media, and obviously his coaches. And I am quite happy he did that. Bamani in the chat saying, what's up, Matt? What's up, Bamani? Hope you've been having a good day. But otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the show. It's been a good one. Shout out to Santiago and Jay for calling in. Jay, first time calling in. Salute to him. But hit that like button, share the show, subscribe, all that YouTube shit. You know what it is. Be back tomorrow, hopefully at our regularly scheduled time at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. in the UK. I do miss our UK listeners in the chat. There was a fun bunch to see either be trolled or trolled by Bayside Boxing. I will admit that. That is always quite entertaining. But I hope everyone has a great night. If you're going to wake up to this in the UK in a couple hours, hope you enjoy the show. Patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio helps support the show in any financial way. And what else? Yes, live fight chats on Saturday. Don't know about Sunday for that WBSS card. I'm probably not going to wake up at 4 a.m. for that shit, let's be honest. But I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. Hipsters here. Haters, beware.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? I want smoke. Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Want that smoke. Want that smoke. Have a great day. Peace.